Hello, team. I'm so sorry that I could not be there today. But if you could please watch this very short video on your very first session of Communities of Practice and learn a little bit more. And then at the end, you'll have to fill out a survey so that you're able to earn credit for your CRIMSI stipend. Okay, so today what we want to focus on is lesson internalization and with a special focus on the actual pacing of your lessons. So let's take a look at this question. How does lesson internalization contribute to remaining on pace with your daily lessons? Okay, so we're thinking about internalizing that lesson during our planning time, and then how can we focus on staying on the actual pacing of the lesson with those minutes that they have shown us. So you might thinking, what is an actual community of practice? What does that even mean? So a community of practice is a collaboration where we're all going to come together to learn from one another, to improve our skills, and to share some successes and some challenges as the implementation process unfolds. Our COP sessions will be at a time for us to come together to collaborate versus those asynchronous sessions that you're already doing individually in CRIMSI. So let's get started with our first community of practice into CRIMSI. Before we dive deeper, I want to just remind you that the school year one session is already up and live in your Till Learn dashboard. So please make sure that you're completing this work so that you're eligible to get the stipend at the end of the program. Our objectives for today, we really want to focus on practicing the lesson internalization strategies that's going to support us and prepare us to teach our lessons. Specifically, we're going to analyze the problem around pacing because I know a lot of us have had some challenges with staying on track and fitting everything in the allotted time. We're also going to review some resources that are addressing those pacing challenges. And then we're going to collaborate to determine some next steps to provide some solutions to rectify that problem of pacing. So remember in summer session in summer session 3, you learned how to work through the steps of internalizing a lesson. I think we all have that down. Those steps were understanding the lesson purpose and those objectives, understanding the sequence of pacing and the activities, and then we also learned how to prepare to teach each activity, right? And then organizing those resources at the end. So today we're going to zoom into discussing the common pacing struggles, and we're going to come together as a community, as teachers, to address that struggle using those Amplify Texas resources. So let's dig deeper into the community of practice. We're going to start with pacing, successes, and challenges. So take a moment to read this challenge from Miss Powell, who's a third grade teacher. She's having a similar challenge that as I've seen across all districts, district-wide, when implementing the new instructional materials. So go ahead, take a moment and read this this prompt using Miss Powell. Okay, so we can see that Miss Powell is having some pacing struggles with staying on time throughout the lesson, which I know we've all had some struggles with. Even I myself have had some struggles with that. So right now, I want you to think about what are some successes that you have had with your pacing so far and what's led to those successes. But then I also want you to think about what are some challenges that you've had and what are some ideas to keep in mind that will help you address those challenges throughout the school year to help you become better with pacing. So just kind of think about some successes and some challenges that you've had with pacing. Let's take a look at some pacing specific resources that Amplify provides to our teachers. And I'm sure you've seen several of these or seen these before. On the left hand side, you're going to see the pacing guide that Amplify provides. And on the right hand side, you guys are familiar with this landing page, which is our pacing calendar for the district. What we did is we took the pacing guide from Amplify, which is on the left, and we modified it to fit into our days in our school year. So that's why you see some pausing point days are taking out or some cumulative activity days are taking out because they just didn't fit into our pacing guide. But please make sure that you're utilizing that pacing calendar so that you're staying on task as much as possible. Another pacing guide to keep in mind is the lesson at a glance. This has the times for you for each component. Okay, so we know that there's different components for each lesson, and then there's an allotted amount of time for that component. So just keep that in mind whenever you're going through your lessons and setting a timer to help you stay on time. So let's take a look back and revisit Miss Powell's challenges with her pacing. Remember, Miss Powell, she was having some challenges with getting through her lesson in time, enough time for her kids to complete the independent task. So now that we all know a little bit more about those Amplify resources, which are going to be the pacing calendar and then the allotted times on the lesson at a glance, I want you to kind of think about how can she use those resources to help with those challenges and hopefully get ahead of those challenges. So think about this question. What recommendations do you have to support Miss Powell? Or when you're doing your lessons, what are some of the things that you're thinking about with pacing and how you can make sure that you're staying on track for each component and getting through the entire lesson? So, in closing, Communities of Practice Session 1 is mainly about pacing. I know we've all had challenges, like I've previously said before, but just making sure to utilize the lesson at a glance and looking at those timestamps, and then also looking at the pacing calendar and mapping out which day you want to complete each lesson will help you stay on track as much as you can. I know sometimes we get off with our lessons because they do go a little bit longer, or we might have assemblies or something like that. But just utilizing those resources that Amplify provides for you to help you stay on track is our main goal for session 1. The next question on the Google form you will have is your survey that you will complete. If you'll just click on the grade level that you teach and complete that survey in order to earn your stipend for Crimsey. We would greatly appreciate that. That's the last thing you'll have to do for COP session 1. Thanks.